When you're new, real estate investing can be a lot like a complicated puzzle. You're not sure which piece goes where. You're not sure what you're supposed to do next or what order that you're even supposed to put the pieces in place. How can you figure out how to put together that puzzle? That's what we're talking about today on the Sub2Deals Show. Hey, Sub2ers, welcome to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Now, occasionally, we may veer off topic just a little bit, but it's always something that'll help you with your real estate investing business. Now, what I'd like to invite you, if you're listening to us on Apple or Google or any of the other podcast mediums out there, that you actually watch our show on YouTube. You can see our smiling faces and watch all the other videos that we put out. We put out a video just about every single day, always something to help you with your real estate investing business. You can watch our channel at sub2tv.com. That's SUB, the number 2, TV.com. And if you're interested in the absolute most affordable creative finance training on the planet, check us out at $7coaching.com. I promise you it is the most affordable training you'll find. We'll answer all of your questions. I'll answer them personally. And we got a whole bunch of goodies over there at $7 Coaching. So go check that out. It's $7 a month. I promise you it's the best value on the planet. Today, we're talking about real estate investing and the puzzle that it is, especially when you're new, when you're getting started, when you don't know what you don't know. A couple of weeks ago, I recorded a podcast episode with one of our Sub2 Max students, Ryan, and he told a story about his first rehab, his first foray into real estate investing. And it was a pretty detailed story. I'll let him tell it on the podcast, but basically what it comes down to is he decided he wanted to get into real estate. He followed a very, very popular podcast with hundreds and hundreds of episodes. And he said, I listened to every one multiple times. I felt like I knew what I was doing. I went out and I bought my first fix-up property and got started on the process. He said, I can do this. And what he found out along the way was there are a few missing episodes of that podcast. And what he's trying to really say is that there are always more details, and you don't know what you're going to run into until you're actually out there doing things. I'll tell a little story here. My wife, Jody, her niece just graduated from high school this year, and they're having her graduation party next week, actually. And Jody's great at picking out unique and very thoughtful gifts. And we went to check the mail, and one of the gifts she had ordered for her niece was there. And it was this, if of course you're listening, you can't see this, but if you're watching, it was one of these puzzle boxes. And these boxes, I'd never seen anything like this. The closest I'd ever seen to something like this, there was a horror movie in the 80s called Hellraisers. And they had the premise of the whole thing was all of these demons came out of this puzzle box. But this apparently is a thing now. This puzzle box is, of course, it's a box. It's 6-sided, and there are all these different puzzles. There's a puzzle on each side of the box. They have to be, figured out and solved in a certain order, a certain sequence, to get you to the prize side, which is, of course, where you open the box and get whatever's inside. So. I saw her and Jody, she's like a kid in a candy store. Whenever we go check the mail, packages are there, whatever, she has to open them right there in the car. So, but she's opening this thing. I'm driving down the road. She pulls this box out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine solving that without, tips, pointers from somebody else, that sort of thing. I can't imagine trying to figure it out all on my own. And it hit me, that is so much like real estate investing. And really, when you think about it, and I started thinking about it, and I said, well, gosh, it's six sides. And really, there are six problems that have to be solved no matter what type of investing you want to do. Whether you want to be a wholesaler, a rehabber, a creative finance person, you're into lease options, subject to whatever, wraparound mortgages, whatever it may be. When you're first getting started, you've got to go through six real steps in that. And I want to go over those today and talk a little bit about what you need to do to solve these six puzzles. Okay. No matter, if you're like me, when I got started, we didn't have Facebook and we didn't have all the technology we have today. We had things called news groups. They were just places where people posted, similar to Facebook, but different. And somebody would come in, ask a question. Other people would jump in and answer it. You didn't really know who was answering your question. After a while in a certain news group, you would figure out who knew things and who thought they knew things. But in the beginning, you really didn't know. So if you hung around long enough to figure out, like I did, I wanted cash flow. Wholesaling didn't appeal to me. I know most people get their start in wholesaling, but it didn't appeal to me. It seemed very transactional, and it was really just a well-paid job. And I already had a well-paid job. I wanted something else. I wanted something that I could work with for a while and then not have to work if I didn't want it to. So I wanted cash flow. So I was interested in creative finance. I was interested in seller financing. And of course, when I learned about Sub2, I thought that was the best thing in the world. So then I had to find out everything. Once I'd settled on what I wanted to do, I had to learn everything that I could about it. What is subject to? What is creative finance? What is seller financing? How do those things work? What are all the pieces that are involved in that? So you have to learn how things work. And more so now today than ever before, you have to understand what you can do in your location. Things are state specific now. Of course, things have always been state specific, but now there's so much legislation. What can you do where? Can I even do that in my state? If I can do it, do I have to take extra steps? So the first side of the puzzle is, what do I want to do and how does that really work? What appeals to me? What type of investing do I want to do? It's not just enough to say you're a real estate investor. You need to learn something first. And of course, by the time you're, I guess, a complete real estate investor, you want to know several different things, even if you focus on one. But in the beginning, you have to learn something and start there. So that's the first part of the puzzles piece that you need to put into place. The second, once you figured it out, and then let's just go along with what I did. I said, I want to buy properties subject to or with seller financing. How do I generate leads to do that? How do I find people that are willing to sell to me this way, that are willing to let me take over payments or willing to carry the note? And what I learned pretty quickly was people that are generally motivated more so. Okay, if I'm going to pay cash, then I can buy just about any house on the MLS. If I'm willing to pay full price, and I know a ton of investors who pay dang near full price for properties. Maybe they have good credit. Maybe they have lines of credit with the bank. Maybe they do BRRRR stuff. They go out, they buy a house, they fix it up, they refinance it, pull their money back out. But if I'm looking for creative finance, typically, not always, but typically, I'm going to need somebody that's a little bit more motivated, somebody that maybe is facing foreclosure. I had a conversation yesterday with a guy that called me that said he just got through with a horrible divorce. He said, I haven't even been in this house in 11 months, but now I'm charged with selling it. I have to split the proceeds with my ex-wife. So, people in situations is a main source of lead generation for us. We also do some other things. We do radio. We've done bandit signs on occasion. We also do direct mail, but you have to pick a way to generate leads. Now, most of the wholesalers that I know, they rely on mass platforms like texting or cold calling, and they're trying to hit hundreds of people a day, because you have to find somebody. If you invest that way, you have to find somebody that's going to sell very inexpensively. With what I do, I can pay full price for a house. It's nothing for me to pay $300,000 for a house with a 2.5% loan and sell that house for 300 to somebody at 6 or 7%. I can make money on the spread all day long. If I were a wholesaler, I couldn't do that. So those are details that are very important to know. How do you generate leads? Because it will differ somewhat based on the type of investing that you do. Once you figured out how to get the phone ringing or get people to talk to you, then you've got the next piece of the puzzle. How do you negotiate with people? Are you a natural negotiator? Do you feel very comfortable talking with people? Or are you the type of person that, crumbles like yesterday's coffee cake? Okay. You have to be able to have a conversation. And I tell my students this all the time. The fastest, and I actually learned this from one of my Facebook ads coaches that I had. And she always said the fastest path to cash is a conversation. And I have so found that to be true in our business. Now, do you have to talk to people? Do you have to negotiate to get deals? Absolutely not. One of my best friends hated talking to people. He absolutely hated it. How did he get deals? He made hundreds of offers on MLS listed properties. That's how he did it. And just through sheer volume, he bought houses that way. Now, was it tougher for him? Well, he preferred it to talking with people. But I've always preferred having a conversation. So if you're going to do creative finance, if you're going to deal with people in foreclosure, you're going to deal with people getting a divorce or having tax problems or those other things, you're going to have a good negotiator, or you're going to have to be able to negotiate or have a partner that's able to do that for you. So those are some things you have to get figured out. Now, once you've got those things figured out and you know what to do, the next part comes into play. Okay. And this is the fourth side of that box. And that is, what about the paperwork? Okay. What do you need to have? If you're just doing wholesale deals, maybe it's a simple contract giving you the ability to assign. Is assigning important to me in my business when I intend to keep pretty much everything I buy creatively? It's not. What about your contract? Can you use any courses contract? There are 1,000 teachers out there on every topic, wholesaling, creative finance, doesn't matter. Can you just buy Joe Teacher's course and use that form straight out of the box? Maybe, maybe not. Do you operate in the same state he operates in? If so, maybe. But if you're in a state like Colorado or California or Washington, or maybe you're in Baltimore, or maybe you're on the East Coast in New York, I'm telling you, some of these states have foreclosure protection laws. They have other laws that will keep you from using certain language. Some states even require a certain font size. You need to know what's up in your state, the places you're going to do business in. You need to know that stuff. So that's super important. But that's all part of the puzzle, isn't it? It's one of the 6 sides of that puzzle box that Jody bought. Next, once you've got the contract thing squared away, you're going to need cash. Now, listen, I'm the first person to say I like to have no money in a deal, and many times I can do that. But I'm telling you, there are also countless times that I have to have money up front. Now, if I go out today, okay, here's a good example. We're selling a house in a couple of weeks that I bought subject to. Now, this house was worth, oh gosh, we figured fixed up, this house was worth about $225. It needed paint, carpet, some minor things. The guy called us up. He owed $95. He wanted $5,000. We paid him $5,000. Took his loan subject to. Decided we wanted to just retail it. There was so much room in there. We wanted to do that. So we wrote a check for $5,000. We've made a couple of house payments. We listed it on the MLS. We only owe $95,000 on this house, but guess what? We've got a contract to sell it for $180, and we close on it actually in a couple of weeks from the time of this recording. So what will we make on that house? Gosh, after we're actually paying realtors commissions, but after we pay that, we'll still make over $60,000. Now, we could have kept it. We could have painted and carpeted it. We could have sold it with seller financing. but there was just so much equity, we decided to move on this. Now, I needed $5,000 to close this deal. I needed a couple of months payments to get this thing done. So even though it's a tremendous profit, I had to put some money. Could I borrow that? Of course I could. I could have gotten in with a credit card. I could have probably called up any lender and got $10,000 to cover my cost. But the point is, you have to know where to get this money. It doesn't have to be your money. But that's just a piece of the puzzle. And then the last piece of this puzzle is, how do I get rid of this property? How do I get paid? And remember, if you're watching this, that's the sixth side of this box. That's the important one. That's where you open it up and get what's inside. All the other pieces were important, but this piece is the most important by far, because we all work for payday. That's what we do. So how do we do this? Now, the example of the deal I just gave you, we wrote that seller a check for $5,000. We could have immediately gone in there and painted and carpeted, spent another $8,000 on this house, sold it with seller financing, probably got 15 or 20 down from someone, sold it for full price, collected cash flow for months and months, and made $100,000 over the next 3 or 4 years. We decided to take the fast nickel instead of the slow dime on this one. We could have also done what we did and just listed it and sold it. The fact that we had so much room gave us options. Okay. We could have done 1,000 things. We could have lease optioned this house out. We could have sold it with seller financing. We could have used it as a straight rental. But the fact that we had so much room in here, that we took over payments on this loan, our payment on this house was only $600 a month. It'll rent for $14. We just had a lot of options. And know that the way you buy a house will dictate how many options that you've got as far as an exit strategy. But what's your favorite exit strategy going to be? Are you trying to generate long-term cash? Are you trying to generate a ton of money really quickly? You need to know your exit strategy before you go in the front door. Know the back door, know the way to the back door before you go in the front, is what a lot of investors say. So what can you do to shorten the learning curve, to avoid not knowing how to complete one side of the box? There's several things you can do. If you're fortunate enough to have people around you that are already investors, maybe you're part of a great real estate club, people you can talk to that can help you, that are local to you, that can advise you along the way, that's great. A lot of people don't have those resources. Coaching and training can help you. You're not going to find everything you need in a course. The best course in the world will not answer every single question for you. What do I do if this happens? What do I do if that happens? My advice to you is to get somebody that you trust. And again, that may be somebody local to you that will mentor you and not cost you a dime. That is the absolute best. If you have friends or family that are already investors that can show you the way, that's definitely the way you want to go. Short of that, you want a reputable coach, teacher, or trainer that can be there, answer your questions. And if you're stuck on the third side of that box, they can give you the keys. Jody had trouble opening that box. She said, man, I've got to get this thing open to put her prize inside. So she had to go to YouTube and watch some videos on how to open up the sides on this thing. Super complicated box, I'm telling you, so much like real estate. But she did that. She went, somebody showed her how to do it, and she got it figured out, and she got it opened up. I would say to you, get a coach, get a teacher. We do coaching. We do the $7 coaching. We do Sub2 Max. We've got many students in there that have been successful. In fact, at our last mastermind, I calculated, I looked around the room at all the people that were there, and I said, 85% of the people sitting at this table are full-time real estate investors. That is a very high percentage, probably one of the highest in the business. So if you want to be surrounded by people who are actually doing, join us in Sub2 Max. You can go to sub2max.com, learn all about it. We'd love to have you inside the group and have you at our next mastermind. So anyway, hope this was helpful today, guys. If you enjoy our podcast, give us a 5-star rating and review over at Apple. We'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. our YouTube channel, you can do that at sub2tv.com. We would love to have you over there as a subscriber, watching our videos, viewing our training. We'd love to help you figure out the 6 sides to that real estate puzzle, guys. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Guys, get out there, talk to some sellers, and buy some houses.